Hello, Miss Night Terror here. I hope you enjoyed the last video, even though it was a little bit different than I normally do. Anyway, I hope you enjoy this video even better, and I will be doing a Halloween special soon, so please stay tuned for that, and I will see you shortly. Bye! A girl had just finished nursing school and started working in a new hospital. Although she loved her job as a nurse, she found it difficult to get along with the people she worked with. They were mostly young doctors who had just finished medical school. The problem was that they delighted in pulling pranks on each other. She found it very difficult to live with them in the residence next to the hospital, because they stayed up late at night and made too much noise. The nurse worked very long hours and needed all the sleep she could get. Whenever she complained about their behaviour, the mischievous doctors just laughed in her face and told her to shut her fat mouth. The nurse eventually had to report the young doctors to the hospital manager, and they got in all sorts of trouble. The doctors began to really hate the nurse and spent days planning to get revenge on her. Finally, one of the doctors came up with a really sick prank. They could play on the nurse, and the others gleefully agreed to help. That night, they broke into the mortuary in the hospital basement and sawed the arm off a corpse. Then they sneaked into the nurse's bedroom and put the arm under her bedclothes. They placed it at the bottom of the bed so when she lay down, her feet would touch it. Chuckling to themselves, they stood around the hallway, waiting for the young nurse to go to bed. As the girl went into her bedroom, the doctors had to stop themselves from laughing out loud. The nurse was suspicious of their behaviour, but she was too tired to care, and went into her bedroom, closing the door behind her. The men waited impatiently in the hallway for the nurse to find the arm in her bed, but nothing happened. There were no screams, no angry yells, only silence. After a while, the doctors got fed up of waiting around and decided to turn in for the night. They assumed that they had placed the arm too far down in the bed and the nurse mustn't have felt it. The next morning, when they woke up, the doctors went to check on the nurse. Receiving no answer when they knocked on her door, they turned the handle and went inside. The room seemed to be completely empty. The doctors searched the nurse's bedroom, and when they opened her closet, they were greeted by a horrible sight. The nurse was curled up in the corner of the closet. Her hair had turned completely white. Her eyes were rolled back in her head, and she had gone totally insane. Her face looked like it aged 20 years, and worst of all, she was chewing on the severed arm. Beware the stare of Mary Shaw. She had no children, only dolls. And if you see her in your dreams, make sure you never, ever scream. There's an old ghost story around here about a woman named Mary Shaw. She was buried with her doll collection. Now, some say it's just a scary poem. Parents tell their kids to keep them in line, but others claim it's more than that. There are things you remember, and there are things you can't forget. Like the look on that woman's face when she died. Her name was Mary Shaw, the ventriloquist who lost her voice. Back when I was a boy, those were the glory days of Ravens Fair, and the town built itself a grand old theatre out on Lost Lake. I only ever went there once. It was 1941, and Mary Shaw was the ventriloquist on stage. She had a dummy called Billy. That night, during her performance, a young boy named Michael made fun of Mary and called her a fraud. He claimed he could see her lips moving when the dummy was talking. Some weeks later, that disbelieving little boy went missing, vanished without a trace. For his family, there was only ever one suspect, Mary Shaw. In fact, everyone in town felt like Mary Shaw must have played some role in it, and not long after that she was murdered. Who killed her? No one ever found out for sure. According to the legend, some members of the Asham family dealt their own brand of justice, along with other folks from the Ravens Fair. They stormed her dressing room at the theatre. They forced her to scream, then ripped out her tongue, silencing the ventriloquist's voice forever. Or so it seemed. In her will, Mary stated that her dummies were to be buried with her children as she called them, all 101 of them. Her body was brought to my father's mortuary, so he could begin work on her other final requests. Not only did she ask to be buried with her dolls, she asked to become a doll herself. But she didn't stay dead. She came back and took her revenge. Ever since she was buried, Ravens Fair has been plagued by death. One by one, each of the men involved were killed. They were found with their tongues ripped out, and then the same things happened to their wives, and then their children, and their children's children. No one in this town dares speak Mary Shaw's name, let alone go near her grave. They know she won't stop killing until the screaming does.